All right, welcome to Blueprint Career Corps, where we share stories from students navigating internships, research, and early career growth. Today's episode is a collaboration with SFU Competitive Programming Club, and we're excited to have these two guests who've been deeply involved in both technical competitions and hand-on projects. For anyone new, SFU Blueprint is a student-led tech club that builds real-world software for nonprofits and community organizations, helping students grow through meaningful, impact-driven projects. Big thanks to both of our guests today. I guess we can start with some quick intros. Can I get your name, year, and current role? I guess we'll start with Colin.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yep.
I'm Colwyn. I'm in my last semester of fourth year, assuming that my exchange credits transfer properly, taking an age. And I'm an intern at AWS right now.
Okay. Andy.
Yep, my name's Andy. I'm currently third year computer science major with a statistics honor. I'm working as a SDE intern at Demonware right now.
Okay, great, great. I guess we'll kick things off. What initially drew you guys to competitive programming, and how did you guys decide to compete in ICPC?
Same order, me then Andy, or
Yeah, let's keep that in order.
okay, no worries.
Yeah.
I did robotics in high school,
Okay.
and a big part of that was programming the robots to do these autonomous routines. But at the time, my coding was literally like turn right, go straight 30 seconds, turn left. But I loved the competitions. I loved the intersection between like the problem solving and the collaborating with your team.
Yeah.
And so when I got to SFU, competitive programming felt a lot like that. And additionally, I found it was helped me with classes because some of the algorithms I'd learn would be relevant to what I learned in CMPT 307 the previous
Yeah.
day. And the people were amazing, and it really motivated me to keep working on my programming skills.
100%. Andy?
Yeah, so for me, I guess the motivation behind was definitely to prepare for technical interviews. I think this is a big part for finding internships.
Yeah.
And so that's what got me started. And later on, I guess it's just doing like I really enjoyed it. So doing interesting things with people who share the same passion. I think for like a big thing about competitive programming is that you meet people with huge passion in this field. Like this is not very regular in other clubs I participated, but in Comprog, people would spend hours, even like all night, solving problems and doing things. So I think that's really attracted me.
Yeah. Like, I know these contests take like a long time. Like, what motivated you
Oh
guys
yeah.
through your first few contests?
Uh, yeah, the contests. Oof. I think it was the same as like when I did contests in robotics. I feel like the contest offered an ability to finally like, test that
Yeah.
you really understood what we've been learning.
Yeah.
Because the comp prog kind of workflow is, you learn something,
Yeah.
you get given a bunch of practice problems that apply the concepts that you learned, and then you see how many you can solve in the given time and ask for
Yeah.
help while you're doing it. So I think the contest, it gives you like an actual situation with real random problems, and you can see what topics you've mastered, what topics you're missing,
Yeah.
and it's just really fun because you're there with your friends and you're working together. One person's coding, two are solving problems.
Yeah.
It's
To kind of ping
thrilling.
pong off that, like, how different is that stress from like maybe taking like an exam, you'd say?
Oh, I'd say more stressful.
Really?
I don't, at least the exam, I feel like you're given a syllabus
Yeah.
that kind of gives you a solid area of stuff to study. But when it's comp, like the questions could literally be anything,
Right.
and they're always often completely unique, like new, creative for the contest. And they might use something like a concept that you've studied in the past,
Yeah.
but it's definitely stressful, and especially seeing other teams start to solve problems and
Yeah.
you
Okay. Yeah.
feel like
Yeah.
you're falling behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that's a big part of it, like the leaderboard for the contest.
Hmm.
Also, like
Hmm.
when you solve a problem, the dopamine hit when you see your team move up on the leaderboard.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, maybe we should bring that into the final exams, right? Like, somebody just solved the last problem, 20 minutes mark into the exam,
Oh my
Yeah.
God, exam leaderboards. It's like
exam leaderboards.
Honestly,
Andy
yeah.
solved 20 problems, Collins at 10. Oh my God, got a lot of
So
pressure.
you guys would say the stress is more stressful than like taking like let's say just like linear algebra. You're going into your
Yeah.
final exam. You're saying the stress is even more than that.
Well, I think it's totally what Andy said. It's like comparison is the thief of joy, right? When you're in the exam, you're kind
Yeah,
of just like, have I studied hard enough?
exactly. Okay.
And you're going as fast as you can, but you don't really know how knowledgeable other people are until maybe you
Mhm.
see someone stand up and leave. But you know what? Maybe he didn't know anything. That's why he stood up and left.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, competitive programming, you literally see teams are solving it because you get instant verification. Like you did the
yeah.
problem correctly or not correctly. So you're like, okay, this team is literally 5 minutes away from victory. I need to speed it up.
Yeah, honestly, that would be that sounds pretty stressful, yeah. Uh, what two habits from competitive programming do you guys still rely on like today? Like what has it taught you guys?
Oof.
Or
Oh, I
maybe whether at
definitely.
work or
Maybe
research?
I'll start first.
Yeah, you go first. You go first.
So I think one of the biggest habit or benefits that competitive programming give is to just solve, like be able to take on hard problems. This might sound easy, but it's actually a very important skill, especially when you see a problem that you like. There are problems where you probably never seen this before, and it's probably out of your reach. Like you probably can't solve it, but can you still sit there 2 hours just trying, like trying different things? I think this is a big skill. It also, like I brought it into research, into work. Like there will be tasks that you feel like it's probably way too difficult for you, but do you have the right mindset to solve it? I think that's a big part. Another habit is probably consistency. Because a big part of competitive programming is literally doing same problems under the same topics over and over in different forms, different languages. So I think like almost all like good competitive programmers I know, of course they have the talent, but they also put in so many hours, like
Mm,
way beyond people can imagine. So consistency is definitely a very important skill.
Hmm.
100%. Like yeah, 100%. That consistency is something that definitely carries over, especially in the work. Because I know what you guys are doing for work now, you guys probably have like a ton of tasks, and that definitely has helped you. What would you say, Colin?
I think, yeah, work ethic is super important. I think on maybe a more abstract level, I think
Yeah,
concepts like divide and conquer, like taking one of these problems
yeah.
from computer programming, dividing it into smaller, manageable pieces.
Mm,
Like, you're given this big word problem, but you're like, oh, actually, boom, this is just another way of saying this algorithm I already learned. This is another way of saying this different algorithm I already learned. Join them together. That's how you solve the problem. Additionally, I think working backwards, like, you start at the solution. Okay, what is this problem asking for? And then work backwards in smaller steps until you solve it. Because, yeah, like, first glance, these problems are just so complicated, so mind-boggling. But
yeah.
I swear, every time I've seen a solution to a problem, it always makes complete sense after
Okay, yeah.
5 seconds of explanation.
So if you guys ever had a problem you ran into that you were like, yeah, there's no way we can do this, and you guys still ended up being able to solve it?
Oh, and do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think sometimes like some of the problems, especially those involving like math problems or probability problems, those problems can be especially tricky because like when the problem involves math, sometimes the solution is really simple. It might be just a formula or like a trick or just some intuition you need to draw. And if you've taken some math class, you probably notice this feeling we're doing final exam. You just have the aha moment, like, oh, like what if I do this? Like
Yeah.
those moments where you just think about, oh, maybe this equation I learned from class or I've used in previous Compark sessions, maybe I can try that. And like at the point you didn't even know if this is the solution, but sometimes you just have to YOLO, you just write it and
Mm,
submit it, and then it just works. So I think math problems are one of those ones. Like at first you feel like, oh, this is impossible, but
yeah.
then you realize there's a trick.
Yeah, definitely like basically just saying, how can I make this more simple? How can I
Yep.
simplify this question? Like, yeah. What about you, Colin?
Yeah, I think you're totally right. It's like, yeah, like the problems seem so novel and so unique, and then yeah, you just have to work backwards. You got to break it
Yeah.
down until you're like, oh, this is Hall's matching theorem, or this is backpacking problem. I've done this before,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then you kind of on a path to success.
Yeah.
I think one thing I definitely had to break away from competitive programming once
Yeah.
you're doing a real job is the naming. Like I feel like competitive programming teaches you to do 4i, 4j,
Yeah.
num1, num2, num3. That does
Yeah.
not fly outside of competitive programming.
Really?
No.
Yeah.
The
I think
companies don't like that.
another
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I think another aspect that I want to add on to this, I'm not sure if Colin has the similar experience, but as you gain more experience into competitive programming, sometimes you have the tendency to overcomplicate a problem. Like
Mm,
you think you can't solve it because you think it needs some very advanced algorithm, or you think the brute force solution just wouldn't pass, or it would exceed the time limit. But sometimes in the end, it's just a brute force like approach. So I think that's like a classic gotcha in the
Mhm.
contest.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. I think it's also like sometimes when you do something too much, you get too confident that your way is like the only and the best way.
yeah.
Like I remember one was like finding all the routes you can take from like the starting tile in a 2D grid to the end of 2D grid. I'm like, okay, I know this algorithm. This works all the time. And so a different question was like find the optimal path backwards. And I'm like, okay, I'll just use my same algorithm. It'll work. And then the best way was actually just to like start from the end and go back to the beginning. I'm like, oh, that's simple when I think about it. But it's like,
Simplify it. Yeah.
yeah. So you gotta, even though you might know the answer, it's like you still gotta think about, I don't
100%.
know, different ways to tackle a problem.
What's one important thing competitive programming didn't teach you that your internships or research required?
Well, apart from the naming thing, I think one thing I'm definitely learning for one of the first times at AWS is like just system design.
Mm,
Like competitive programming, it's very isolated problems, like very modular. It's like you have a problem, you write usually just a single file, which is the code, the function that solves the problem, and then you're done. But when you start working an internship, you kind of have to think in the context of the whole application. Like, has someone already programmed something similar to this? And then you
mm,
should just reuse that to keep it simple. Is it the most like cost-effective way, or does it make the most sense? Like, you don't have to do it the most optimal way anymore. You got to do it like the most easy to maintain way, or the way that makes sense for the rest of the application. Yeah, it's a different way of thinking than just
100%.
what's the fastest way to solve this problem.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I think like that is definitely my experience too in the technical perspective. Other than the technical perspective, I'll probably say communication because yeah, like people often like for those just like new to internship or didn't have internship experience before, people would imagine being a software engineer will be coding all day, like just writing a lot of code. In reality, that's like often not the case. Like there's a lot of talking about designs, about approaches, or just talking about why a specific problem might happen. So yeah, and I think in computer programming, there's still communication involved, but like Colin mentioned, it's very limited to like that specific problem. But in work, there's all sort of communication happening around. I think it's a very important skill.
yeah, to kind of transition, like, how different was you guys' first internship from what you expected? Like, I know the process to getting it was so like long, and you might have expected something different, and then when you got there, it might have been totally different. So I kind of want to, I'm interested to hear that.
Yeah, I think for me, it was definitely like both on the social side and the technical side. very different, especially because it was an Angular and TypeScript.
Mhm.
And before my co-op, I had never touched web design ever in my life. So it was a huge learning curve, learning how to use those frameworks. And then I think I was just blown away by how kind programmers are. Like my team was super helpful. Everyone's eager to help you learn. And my first internship, I definitely didn't tackle anything too technically difficult. There's a lot of just, solving tickets, doing small front end changes based in the UX design, but definitely a lot of like communicating with different teams, product manager. It's like you all of a sudden you learn that everything you learned in CMPT 276 about agile development is very important
Okay.
when you get in the workplace.
100%.
Yeah, so for me, my first internship is a very unique experience because I didn't start as a software engineer intern. I started as a research intern, which is very rare in the industry, especially for undergrad students. And the company was a quantum computing company. That was very rare too. So I'm part of the performance research team where the internship was about helping the team on their newly published quantum computing algorithm, like the research. So a lot of my work involved running experiments, also build like helping them develop their open source project for their like communities and stuff. So yeah, I think definitely it was pretty hard like during the internship because like my supervisor, he is a physics PhD. I haven't taken a single physics class in my life. So like usually what happens like it's almost like they hire a computer science student to help write the program, but they mainly speak like math and physics, and I do the programming, and it was yeah, it was pretty difficult for the most part. And plus, like when I started the job, I haven't taken 276, so I wouldn't say I myself is a mature software developer. I even remember like when I opened the first pull request on their first like on their open source project, the first common review I got is like, "Oh, Andy, it seems like you accidentally upload your virtual environment file to the repo. Can you remove that?" I was like, "Oh my gosh, okay." Yeah, so but yeah, it was a great team. A lot of learning, I think. Um, I think for internship, a lot of the learning for me didn't happen on the technical side, but rather than how to work with teams, how to work with large code base, communication, how to push through progress, setting milestones for yourself. So yeah, I think this is a valuable experience.
100%. Uh, for Colin specifically, how did your blueprint experience shape your applications and the way you position yourself? And how did your studies in NN/CV broaden your perspective?
In the context of like school, life, work, I think I think Blueprint was really, really cool for me because I had literally just come off an internship where I had just learned how to do web development.
Mm.
But I was still, I'd say I was a bit of a code monkey at that position. Like I was just basically getting tickets from the UX team, making changes and putting it in production. It was a very small startup. And so I hadn't done, kind of what I mentioned before, like the whole like system design part of it. And so at Blueprint, I was a part of making the Blueprint website. And so it's a bit more of like a
Uh,
ground up, you know, how are you going to make a website from scratch and work with this team? So I was able to, work with people on making like the first code style guide and set up the website framework. And like I was able to be a lot more creative in what I wanted to put into the website and that kind of thing.
yeah,
So yeah, it was really cool being on the planning side of things. But yeah, I think it just gave me some confidence in my abilities. For
100%.
the neural networks and computer vision stuff,
Yeah,
I've found it really useful making some side projects. And I think it's really important to just learn that stuff to understand like the
100%.
world today. Because like ChatGPT and Google and Anthropic and all these companies, they're going to be a huge part of the future. And so you want to be on like the knowledgeable side of that. But I haven't been able to incorporate it in my work yet.
Side note, like speaking of ChatGPT, how much has that affected you guys? Like How much has that changed your daily, like, even just down to the studying? Like, how much has that changed for you guys?
Um, I think in terms of, so like for me personally, my personal perspective is that
Yeah.
like after being working, like I've worked at three internships for software engineer. I've been working for like a year, as software engineer. I don't like, I want to start by saying that I don't think it's gonna replace developer anytime soon, especially if you know, like if you use it on a production system. It's not, it's just not that helpful. Like I don't see it being a like entry level programmer that can just that can do everything. I think like in my daily developer life, it's good at explaining things, that's for sure. You can ask it to explain functions, explain files. It's super good at writing documentations. Maybe part of it is just my own communication issue, but like yeah, like when I spin up a PR, usually like I describe what I'm trying to do, and ChatGPT can just format it into very concise bullet point. And some of the downside that I find the AI tool struggling is that um, like ChatGPT, it doesn't know, like when the code base grows at scale, it doesn't understand every pieces of the code base. Like maybe for some tasks you want to use existing API endpoint, ChatGPT doesn't know it. So it's gonna write a completely new endpoint for you, which is obviously not what you want to do. It also doesn't know your company's own standard because we have our own standard, we have our own styling. ChatGPT doesn't know that, so maybe the code it generated might feel just out of place. Like it doesn't feel like our own code. So yeah, that's been my personal experience.
Mhm.
100%.
Yeah, I think that's a great take, and I think yeah, like ChatGPT and all these AI systems have been trained on the entirety of the internet and of so many code bases, so it gives you a very average answer.
Mm.
And sometimes you need a much more unique answer. Like what would be the best thing to do in terms of your code base and your company, and what's the simplest for you and other people to understand. Sometimes you don't want a super overcomplicated explanation that ChatGPT spit out. You want a simple, I know this works, this makes sense for our code base. And yeah, I think it's one of those things where there's no better time than the present to really learn new skills and
Yeah,
get specialized because that's where you'll stand out. If you find ChatGPT is doing most of your work for you,
yeah, it's
then
not good.
you're a little too reliant and you gotta focus up and
Beyond technical skills, how did communities like Competitive Programming Club or even Blueprint open doors through mentorship and collaboration? Like anytime, like any internships that you guys got from it or skills?
Yeah, I think we we had very strong connections with some of the companies in Vancouver and in Canada traditionally. Just to give some example, like we have a lot of friends interning at Arista Network. We were invited to Huawei at their Vancouver office for research talks and networking events every year. Personally speaking, I received offer this year from both Arista Network and Huawei, so that's definitely a plus. And I wanted to mention that when I applied to Huawei internship during the recruiter call, they explicitly asked about my experience as well as my performance on competitive programming. So there are companies that very value the skill. It definitely helped you to open more doors. And in general, I think we have a lot of very strong people and also alumni that's been part of the club. So I think if you need any advices, any help, like when I first joined, I asked George for advices on getting internships. It was very helpful.
Yeah, Colin?
yeah, I think he's right. Like, there's a lot of great connections with the club. I think like especially in this economy in this job market, like there is definitely more programmers than there are positions for programmers. So I think having these unique experiences in your resume, like being a part of competitive programming, being a part of Blueprint, doing things outside of the normal workflow, just going to school, learning computer science makes you stand out as a candidate. And I think, especially competitive programming, I think Andy mentioned it earlier,
Yeah.
but the technical interviews, like if you can't
Mm,
get through that operational one, that's usually some variation of a leak code problem, then you'll never get to the behavioral interviews where you can really sell yourself as an individual and how you'll mesh with the organization. So
yeah.
it's kind of a barrier where everyone needs to grind the leak code to get through. And I don't know if the industry is going to change or morph in the future, but right now, I think competitive programming definitely helps with that.
Definitely. So landing a role is definitely like a huge milestone. Like, what does a strong first month look like in a large like code base? Like, what helps you guys ramp up quickly?
I think I think asking for lots of help and looking through a lot of resources to get your environment up and running as fast as possible is really key. Because once you're able to load up the code, debug, see everything locally, like you're already at a good place.
Mm,
And then I'd say, yeah, learn the high level architecture first. Look for maybe your company has like high level designs, give you a very abstract view of like what are they doing? How do different components work together? And then from there, with that kind of breadth knowledge, you can like choose a ticket, isolate one of those components and like deep dive, really understand how it works, and then go from there. And all of a sudden you're being a useful addition to the team.
100%. So basically like everyone when you joined was like super helpful. Like even the
Oh yeah.
seniors, managers, everyone. Okay, yeah, that's nice.
I think, yeah, it's also it can depends on like the organizations because from my personal feeling, you get more support and more guidance in large companies. However, in smaller companies or startup like environments, you might receive less support because everything is more fast paced.
Mm,
There aren't a lot of format. But I think the main thing, like as a junior engineer to get started, is just to get your hands on like quicker, like pick a ticket, start small, and realize that you don't have to, at least in the foreseeable future, you don't have to understand everything. Like you don't need to understand what the system, like the whole system is doing. Just focusing on your ticket and the component that interact with it. Because I think sometimes people make the mistake that they need to learn everything. They need to learn every repository, which is not true, and you might be able to waste too much time there. So just start on a small tickets and build your way up.
Mhm. I think that's great. Maybe an example, like at
yeah.
AWS, my first 4 months, I worked on one package
Wow.
and I just, that's it. 4 months, just understanding that package to the point where you can make changes and become like they call it ownership, but like act like
Mm,
you owner that package. You have enough understanding that now you can like give other people advice on how to
yeah.
best add things to that package. And I think it's better to be, master of one thing and then slightly knowledgeable of everything else than be like, but not be able to make like a really meaningful change to anything.
Yeah, 100%. For Andy, how do your research habits like reading
Yeah.
papers or designing experiments translate into practical decision making and backend or database work?
Um, so I think for my research, a lot of the work I'm doing or like the papers I'm reading, to be honest, it's not very related to the industry work. Because research, they focus on the state-of-the-art method. Most of the systems architectures research are exploring is not what the industry is using, right? Especially for large organizations, you realize that, oh, maybe their database is like older version of MySQL. They're never like it's rare for them to use the newest technology. But I guess what is helpful is that for research, you get the opportunity of building something from the ground up, like building experiments, setting up databases, literally like you create repository, you write the Docker file, like you do everything from the ground up. This doesn't like it doesn't really mean that you are following the best approaches throughout, but it does build your confidence as an engineer to know the technologies, know the language more deeply. So I think, yeah, it's just like you can think of it as a more like a very deep technical projects that you are doing for a long period of time.
Yeah. For Colin, at AWS, how did you balance correctness, readability, and delivery speed?
I think it's a
Like
good
for the
question.
package you mentioned, right? Like,
Like one
yeah.
key thing about yeah, I think one key thing about AWS is you definitely focus on the correctness. Like, I mean, look at what happened last week with everything going down because of that
Oh yeah.
AWS outage.
Yeah, yeah, I
Like,
saw that, yeah.
so much relies on it that you kind of have to be correct. Like, you can't risk a bad change going out. So there's a lot of planning, documentation, having it reviewed by people, and that whole ownership thing, like really understanding a package, like that, I feel like that's really key because then you know that your change isn't just good because it matches what else is in the file. It's good because
Yeah,
it's literally the best solution because you understand exactly how it works.
100%.
So I think speed isn't as key as just being able to almost defend your work like a thesis,
Yeah,
like being able to explain exactly what it's doing end to end, why it's working, and then you know when your stuff gets shipped that that was the best way to do it.
yeah,
So I'd say definitely correctness over delivery speed. And readability, I think that's just like taking time when you code to add comments where you need to. Don't overcomplicate it. Make sure it's maintainable and uh, make it visible if that means adding logs or metrics or whatever, so that if something goes wrong, you know what to fix.
yeah.
Yeah.
When you guys first got hired, like, I've heard from other people that sometimes the environment can be like, because I know they hire multiple interns at the same time, kind of. I've heard the environment can kind of be a bit competitive, like to try to stand out, trying to stand out above your fellow internees. Like, is that true? That's something you experienced?
For me, oh, I think that for me, not so much of the case. Part of the reason might be that the return rate for new grad currently at my company is not very high.
Mm,
So if that's the case, then so for me, like when I first joined, there's another intern on my team, but we were actually more on the supportive side. So we would chat about issues, help out with each other on tickets. Yeah, for me, like I don't see any like throughout like my team and different teams, I don't see interns competing with each other on performance. It's mainly a more supportive environment.
that's great.
Uh, sure, is that the case on AWS or is it a bit different?
I think there's for sure an aspect of competitiveness. Like everyone wants the return offer,
Yeah,
but I think there's also just you're not only being graded on your technical ability. I feel like just being a good person also just makes you stand out. Like if you're refusing to help someone or being obtuse when explaining something so someone else has a harder time learning it and making changes, I feel like just being able to mesh with the team well, if you're able to, give people advice or help them in a useful way, I feel like that makes you shine a lot more than just being like the best coder making the most code changes.
100%. Let's see. Andy, as an exec with the SVU Competitive Programming Club, how do you help members translate contest program or problem solving into teamwork and project skills?
Ooh, I think for for teamwork, definitely being able to make it into practice in person helps a lot. I guess what I wanted to encourage is definitely help find your friend zone, like find people you are friend with, and like just drawing contests with them together. Because competitive programming, it can become very dry to do on your own, or on your own time. Just imagine the time you spend grinding leak code at night, right? Not a lot of people enjoy that. But if it's a group of friends and you're discussing problems, then it's a much more enjoyable time. In terms of projects, I guess it depends on personal interest. Like I would say in general, the skills you get from competitive programming translates more into backend development skills or maybe system development skills. But I want to say that if you are able to endure the difficult problems in Comprog, I don't think you will like I think you are able to build any projects like front
Mhm.
end, full stack, because the problems you face in Comprog will be much more difficult than any personal project you develop.
Yeah. For Colin, can you share a moment when your robotics or Birmingham background helped you handle a complex or ambiguous problem?
Yeah, I think like Birmingham, like first I'd like to say I think any student who has the opportunity to do study abroad should absolutely
Mm,
do it. It's just such a big life experience and you learn so much, you meet so many cool people. But I think in terms of biggest problem, I took neural networks and computer vision in Birmingham.
mm,
And I love their way of teaching. They were very hands-on, a lot of labs, a lot of like projects where you're actually implementing the models or doing the computer vision algorithms and you see the results. And it was very cool as opposed to more theoretical classes that I've taken. And so when I came back, I took biomedical computing and there was a whole bunch of projects we could choose from. And we chose cancer lesion detection, like skin
mm.
cancer detection. And I was able to use a whole bunch of those computer vision algorithms to
Yeah.
like, help find the outline of the thing. And then I was able to use neural networks to figure out how to train a kind of vision model to map those lesions to a mask and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think learning's great.
How different was it in Birmingham compared to like maybe SFU?
It was very different.
Yeah.
Like, there was kind of a strange situation where they usually send people home for Christmas break, and then when they come back, they do the exams.
Oh.
But because we were international students, we weren't going to come back after Christmas to do the exams.
Yeah.
So, like, one class moved a custom exam up for us to do. But the other two, there was literally like very little homework, very little, uh, no exams. It was all the labs and kind of like hands-on learning. I think it was just a lot less regimented.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of focus on mental health and like, taking time to travel and explore and stuff like that. So there wasn't the SV concept of like weekly assignments and quizzes and stuff. It was very much like learn at your own pace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. So another question, how did the pro competitive programming club help you beyond code through mentorship, leadership, and building confidence for either of you? Like, did it help you build confidence as like just when you go into just any type of problem or ticket that you saw in your internships?
Yeah, I think definitely it builds confidence. In a way that not because once you join computer programming, you know you are very good at everything, or you just become so technical excellence, but it builds confidence that, like I mentioned before, you will have confidence or you won't freak out when you see problems that you can solve. I think that's very important. Also, this situation happened during interview, right? Because obviously you won't be able to answer all problems during interview, but what do you do once you reach a problem that you don't know how to solve? Like, what do you talk about? How do you explore different approach? I think that's the key. Um, like competitive programming, it trains your mind to quickly search through your toolkit for different approaches once you like when you reach a very difficult situation.
Yeah. And then for Andy again, what's one experience from the club or your research that improved the way you write or review production code?
Um, I think on this one, I wanted to say that probably not so much. Like, main reason because like industry production code is just so different in a way that the code we write for competitive programming and for research is nowhere near the industry standard. So industry standard is more rigorous, it's more strict, especially if my code is being delivered to like some clients on the other team. Yeah, like all the variable names, the styling, the way I do things, everything has to be very strict. And all the comments, how do I write the comments? So I actually want to say that being able to like be having internship experience reviewing production code actually helped me do research like it's the other way around and build project with my friend because now I know how to write code that's way easier for other people to read and take on.
Mm, yeah, 100%. Moving away from that and more onto like directional questions. What's one habit this year that's moved the needle for like both of you guys for, personal growth or technical growth? Like any habit. It could be as
Mhm.
simple as making your bed every morning, like literally anything.
I think for me, probably like setting learning goals for myself. Like this kind of happened because like I've been doing interviews here and there, talking with like my colleagues and mentors. I noticed that like there's just a lot to learn, especially on the fundamental level. Like sometimes I would go into an interview because like I've been working with languages like Python, C++ plus plus in the industry for a year. Sometimes I thought I know the language well, or I thought I know a particular function well, but it turns out I don't. Like turns out I
Yeah.
don't know what's going on. Like one classic example would be in one of the recent C++ plus plus interview. I got like there's a function in C++ plus plus called move. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. Basically, it transfers the ownership of some object. I got asked that what is like how does C++ plus plus implement this function under the hood? Like what is the kernel doing?
Mhm.
And yeah, it's just something I never thought about. Like I don't know what is actually going on. So like having these moments, it makes me realize that maybe like it will make sense for me to set like weekly or monthly learning goals for myself. Maybe reading like a particular tech blog on the technology, reading this chapter on the Python handbook, just reading a little more on the tools I use day to day to gain a little bit more understanding.
Yeah. Colin?
Yeah, I think for me it's definitely curiosity. Like
Mm,
I think you mentioned like speed of development at AWS, and I think even though correctness is number one, I think you also do feel the pressure of getting things out quickly. And so if it's one of those things where like if it works, then do it, done, you're great. But I feel like there's also something to be said about really diving into something and being like, okay, that worked. Why did it work? How does it work?
yeah.
And if you have an issue and you fix it, it's like, why did the issue arise? Learning more about how someone fixed the issue, if someone helped you, so that in the future you can fix it yourself. I think just being curious about everything and anything will just make you a more rounded person and developer.
100%. I've actually heard that same sentiment from like professors. Just be
Yeah,
curious all the time.
yeah.
Like, what's one piece of advice you guys would give anyone coming into computer science, maybe their first year, or wanting to get into it? What's one piece of advice you guys could give to them?
I think do things like projects. Just be coding lots. Like I
Yeah.
think I think Andy mentioned consistency earlier, and it's just like every notch you put on your belt of another project done, you just learn so much. And I think in coursework, it's very like theoretical, it's very specific. It's you basically just learning enough to pass the test. And I think
Yeah.
like, hey, learn something in class and then build something with it. Like you learn an algorithm, like how to add things in prefix form, like, okay, create a calculator app.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, you're curious about JavaScript? Like watch a tutorial and then make some small project. It doesn't have to be like the next Facebook or ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Like every project you make will make you feel just that much more confident.
100%.
Yeah, I think I'll probably add on to it that for anyone just starting computer science in their first year, you definitely need to spend more time outside of the class because it's like we like right now it's 2025, the job market is not the best shape,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and you just can't be in the expectation that, oh, if you do good in class, you get straight A, oh, you can get a job or internship. It's just not like that anymore. So maybe it's hackathon, different clubs, just networking event, maybe it's lead code projects, but either way, you have to make time and be proactive at things outside of the class. And this is especially important for computer science students.
Yeah. For Andy, like for your next step going forward, if you were given the chance, would you prefer to be a software engineer in quant firm or just a regular quant?
Damn, this is a really specific question.
Yeah. We're getting deep in.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the reason I'm interested in this field is because I have I have a pretty good background in math and statistics. Like I had kind of have both interests where I love doing math and statistics, but I also enjoy engineering. So I see quant as being a field where I get to combine both.
Mm,
Um, just to align with my background, I think sticking with the route of software engineering, maybe in a quant firm, would be pretty good. It will be a pretty exciting opportunities. But in general, I think I'm pretty open to my future career path. Like anything exciting that involves good projects, anywhere that can give me a good growth opportunity as an entry-level developer, I will be happy to take it.
100%. And same for you, Colin. Like, how was your experience at AWS or the competitive programming club? Like, how's it guiding your future? What do you want to do next?
I think I definitely want to learn more about like system design and think on a more abstract level. And I think I definitely feel like yeah, the competitive programming, it makes you a much better back-end developer,
Yeah.
solving the algorithms that no one else even thinks about. And I think that's where I want to be is like, you know, doing things under the hood.
So back end, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, for both you guys, what's one piece of advice for turning competitive programming or any type of project experience into real world applications, like any real internship impact, especially in the first month, maybe?
I think I think it's definitely important to think about yeah, like what you want to do, what you want to be. Maybe go on LinkedIn and look at people who are working the roles that you want to be working in, or look at the job postings to see what skills these positions are looking for.
Yeah.
And then use SV Blueprint and SV Comp Prog and school as like a means to learn those skills and like if you're in SV Blueprint, like work on projects that are going to give you the skills that match these applications, or in Comp Prog, do algorithms that you think would be useful to that industry.
Yeah.
And then that will just help you in your cover letters and applications to those companies.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, okay. So, like, for anyone that did competitive programming, how would you tell them to like have it on their resume? Like, how would you leverage that on your resume to make it look as good as possible?
I think it depends on whether like you have achievement or competitions. You can definitely
Yeah.
list it, but I'll say that this is definitely a double-ended sword because you might think that it make you pass the resume screening easier, but sometimes the interview sees this and oh, you might get some harder questions, right? If
Oh,
you say you are doing competitive programming and you fail to solve a LeetCode easy, I don't know. I feel like that just hurts you. So it depends. It depends if people are feeling confident to put that on. But I wanted to say that definitely like for SFU Blueprint and the project experience, it's a safer choice to put on. It's not gonna be as like uh strict as competitive programming. Like talking about project is a bit more loose.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you still host interview workshops with Free Pizza Andy?
Yeah, yeah. So we did that last semester towards the end, and we plan to do that probably towards the end of semester each time.
So there you go. Come on down to a competitive programming technical workshop.
100%,
Free
yeah.
pizza, work on your resume. Boom, win-win.
Win-win for everyone. What's the hardest interview you guys have had, like technical wise?
I've got a couple. Are we supposed to list company names here, or are
If
we
you
not?
want, you could just say the story though.
Okay, so yeah, I won't list company names, but I
Yeah,
will say that like companies, depending on the companies and depending on the teams, they have specific uh preference on how the interview is gonna go, and some of them might look very different.
yeah,
I've had the case where I have multiple algorithm rounds where it's just legal question, but fairly difficult. Like those can be difficult. I've also had the case where it's not very coding, but it's very concept focused. So they will dive deep into languages, they will dive deep into distributed system, into Kubernetes or operating system. Those really test you on how you understand, like how well you understand the tools and the technologies. Those can be tricky as well. And the third type of interview I found very tricky is it's coding, but it's not solving problems. So it's more like coding. It might be coding like a complex API for some applications, might involve some multi-process or multi-threading system stuff related in the coding process, but it's basically just a coding scenario that mimic the real life, like the real work scenarios. Like those also can be tricky because you don't, like as an entry level developer, you don't know what exactly is going on. But yeah, I guess like I've had some pretty rough interviews.
Mm.
Colin.
Yeah, I remember there was one brutal one where the position was to work on an artificial intelligence to test video games. And it was right after my Birmingham term where I had taken that neural networks course.
Yeah,
And it was just one of those things where I was explaining all of my ideas and how I think it would work. And it was just clearly not what the hiring manager was looking for.
yeah,
And so there's a lot of corrections. And yeah. So I think definitely just being very open, ask a lot of leading questions so that you understand not only the problem, but what they're looking for in terms of a solution to the problem. And then you can give an answer that not only solves the problem, but also makes them happy. And yeah, I think yeah, just interviews can take a lot of different forms. Like you might have a operational interview, which is just a bunch of questions that you solve as fast as possible with time limit. Or you might have an interview where you're whiteboarding with someone in pseudocode,
yeah,
trying to solve like a leak code easy or medium. And then yeah, some are literally just behavioral. You just need to be able to explain everything on your resume, which I think resonates with if you put competitive programming, like you have to be able to explain
yeah,
that notch in your resume in a profound way. So
yeah,
if you're adding in all these random stats like improved efficiency by 200%, you got to be able to prove how you did that.
yeah. Uh, Last question, and then we'll wrap up. Like, I've heard a lot of people, I think everyone has mixed kind of opinions on this. Some people say connections are more important than your actual skill in today's like kind of environment. What do you guys think about that? Like for attaining internships.
I think
I go first.
okay. I think skill is ultimately more important.
Yeah,
Like even if you get a role and you can't perform at that level, like it won't matter anyway.
yeah, 100%.
But I definitely think being proactive, like don't just get through your education and then start looking for a job. like be proactive in being like, how can I make myself a sought after, very easy to market candidate for the job market in these 2 years, whether that's, doing projects or going to these job fairs or joining these clubs. So I think the networking side of it is just, yeah, like join clubs, meet people,
Yeah,
learn what you need to learn to make yourself a very viable candidate, and
100%.
who has the skills and the connections to get the jobs.
Yeah.
Both is the answer.
Yeah, I think I agree. Like technical skills, I'll say is more important. But I also wanted to say like people like we don't need to separate them like exactly, right? I think making connection is a skill, or like
Mm,
passing behavioral
Mm.
interviews is a skill. Like it's definitely like not everyone is able to do it to make like build connections, build meaningful connections, to be able to chat with recruiters at career fairs. So I think maybe look at it in a way that this is also a skill you need to work on. It's just different than the technical side.
Soft skills.
yeah, I think that's 100% true. Like the way you're able to communicate is definitely a skill. 100%. Um, did you guys have anything else you want to bring up? Any topics before we
Yeah.
close?
Uh, how do you feel that you are making yourself a viable candidate as you go through your school? Are you in which year are you in? Let's
I'm
say
my
that's
third year as well, yeah.
third year. Okay.
Uh,
What has your experience been with school internships, clubs?
actually, so when I first got here, I'm from the States. I will say Canadian education is 100% more difficult than American education. A lot,
Whoa.
no,
Really? I'm also from the States. Where are you from?
I'm from D Washington, D.C.
Oh, I spent like 2 years in California and
Uh,
5 years in Wisconsin.
oh wow, yeah. So do you think the same then? Like,
Um, I don't know about university wise because I think yeah I think like my experience for high school and secondary school education
yeah,
it was American.
exactly, yeah. Like, I went to high school in D.C. Um, coming here, when I talk to like guys like yourself that maybe went to high school here, it's totally a different experience. Like, I've heard of guys having to like actually do all-nighters and study. At my high school, no one had to do that. Like it was more like everyone was just there to pass. We all passed. Obviously I did good. Like, I'm in university, but you guys have a way higher bar here, like 100%. When you're in high school, the amount of studying you have to do, the math you're doing. I was actually just talking to a kid at my church. He's in Calc 1 in like grade 10. And like, I don't know anyone like that. That was where I went to high school. So it's like the bar over here is extremely high. And I think that's also another reason why it's so hard to find internships in Vancouver specifically, because the bar is so unbelievably high. Like a lot of you guys are just super smart coming out of high school already. Like you guys are just on it just right away. That's definitely something I realized. Another thing, the weed out courses. That was a great experience for me. I came into university with like a bunch of computer science students, and a lot of them ended up switching because of like weed out courses. Like, I remember there was a pretty bad professor for Math 151. Like, she just failed a
Mm.
bunch of people, and they were like,
Wow.
"Yeah, we're just gonna switch now." Um,
Yeah.
but I definitely think weed out courses are a real thing. I think it's a good thing, to be honest. Like, I think you should want to know if you are good enough right away, because there's not
See,
really, yeah,
I think you're right, but I also have an experience where I'm like if it's a difficult course, it's a difficult course.
yeah,
But I feel like I've had courses that shouldn't have been difficult,
yeah,
but the teacher just wasn't helpful or made the tests so different from the lecture notes
yeah,
that it became a difficult course
yeah,
because students had no support. I feel like as long as you're trying and putting in the time, you should be able to get good grades in any class.
yeah. What's the hardest class you guys have taken?
I haven't taken too much courses because like I'm still quite early in my degree. There was a math course I've taken. It's called Math 340 Algebra, Abstract Algebra.
Oh,
Mm.
That was like that the content. It was probably the most difficult course for me to understand. It was also a requirement course for math major, and yeah, it was very theory, proof heavy, and like every lecture, I honestly just feel like I'm in a different world. Like this is probably not English or something's going on.
Yeah.
I also had a some like interesting classes, like Colin mentioned about like interesting professors, where yeah, like the class is not difficult, but it was definitely a very interesting experience. I took CMPT 276
Uh,
with a professor. I took it fall 2024 on Burnaby campus. I
Mhm.
won't just name names, but if you guys search up, you guys should know which professor I'm talking about. That was a very interesting experience.
yeah.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because I took 276 with Brian Fraser, and
How
he
was it?
was phenomenal. Like
Oh,
he made
I
that
think
course
yeah,
so easy,
I took
and
like yeah 201 with him, like the
yeah,
new operating system. Yeah, it was he's an amazing professor. He's
yep.
amazing.
Like he somehow gave us a project in Android Studio where he acted as the project manager, and that's how he taught us agile programming by
That's
putting us in the situation.
Do you guys think exams need to be like a little easier? Like maybe because I've seen a lot of classes where like I know we've all experienced this. We had an exam and the average was 50, like 54 or something. Like, do you guys think the average should be higher? Like, do you think professors need to lighten up the load a bit?
I think like almost absolutely,
Yeah.
just in the sense of like, just don't be a dick.
Yeah,
Like
100%.
I feel like as a teacher, like your job is not to weed out bad programmers or uh, have the hardest exam in the whole school. Your job is to teach everyone the course content. So should like, a slacker who never did any homework and didn't study at all fail? Like, yes,
Yeah,
most likely. But if you have, been to every class or gone over every lecture, did all the practice questions, like I don't see any reason why you should be getting a bad grade on that
yeah,
test. That just seems like you're being a dick.
yeah.
Yeah.
Andy?
uh I like I wouldn't comment too much because most of the class I took at SFU like I have a pretty decent grade and a lot of the times I find the class not very difficult.
Uh,
Um I think I think like it's a good balance that because a lot of the course is difficult, I know, but there's also a very crazy scaling happening in the course.
mm,
And I think I see a reason behind this because if the content is hard, let's say the exam grade is low, right?
yeah,
Um, it just like it makes everybody stressful. Like if you see you got a 40% on the midterm, you're probably scared that you're gonna fail the course and you're probably gonna study your ass off the
yeah.
later half of the semester. I think the professor might be doing this because they just want to push everyone to study. And in
Mm,
the end, like if like the professor is willing to scale up the average to be in a B range, I think yeah, like yeah, it's like the grade wise is fine, yeah.
yeah,
But I had a feeling that most professor give low grade or hard exams because they just want to push everyone to study very hard.
that makes sense. Yeah. Like in these hard classes, how do you guys get yourselves to be able to like just sit down and lock in? Like I know we all, like, at least me, I'll just put it off for so long. Like
Hmm.
these hard classes. I don't know if you guys taken like discrete math too.
Yep.
That was one
Yep.
I never wanted to study it. Like it's just so much theory. How do you guys get yourself to like just sit down and do it?
I think for hard classes, study group helps a lot, like
Oh,
study with other people. When you have a study group, you also like you have somebody looking over your shoulder, right? Because
Hmm.
somebody will check in to see like, hey buddy, did you read this chapter's note and stuff, so that you don't slack off too much.
yeah,
Also when you meet with other people, it just gives you motivation to get your stuff done, to collaborate. Yeah, I think study in general, unless you have very high self-discipline, it's always easier to be in a group to do it together with other people.
yeah.
Hmm. I think yeah, like study groups are great. I think it also just the amount of times I've been in a study group and someone mentioned something and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even realize that was the thing we needed to know for the test.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a you're able to help each other and learn from each other. But I think additionally, just doing some introspection and seeing what environments you're able to be productive in. Like
Yeah.
I found at home I wasn't able to be super productive
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I just want to sleep or, hop on the games or something. And so, yeah, definitely being in like a coffee shop or being at school, studying with the right people definitely helps me. But I also have friends who are able to absolutely lock in at home and get a ton
Yeah.
done. And maybe being with people will be distracting. So definitely like trying different things and finding what study technique works best for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also what I would say is like you have to realize like maybe sometimes people are just good at different things. So maybe
Mhm.
you find a class very difficult just because it doesn't fit your skill set particularly. Like for example, discrete math too, like right, this is one of those courses where it's like it's not very related on whether you can become a good software engineer or get any
Yeah.
job. So unless you want to do specific research, you want to get into theory, or yeah, like it's one of those courses where if you try it and you didn't get a very high grade, it's probably fine.
Yeah.
I think jumping off that, I also want to say just yeah, like the whole thing about 201 not meaning that you're a terrible programmer if you get a bad grade. I feel like honestly most courses
Yeah.
have not been super relevant to what I'm specifically doing. So I feel like whether you're doing great or doing poorly, it's like this is school, work is much different. So if you get a bad grade in a midterm, doesn't mean that you're not cut out for programming. Programming is so many different disciplines. You just need to find what you're good at.
Yeah. What's you guys' like study schedule? Like, are you guys like me? I try to get like an hour in every day. That's how I kind of stay consistent. Like, what do you guys do?
For me, I don't know. I've been out of schools for a while right now. Like I
Oh yeah.
haven't, yeah, I've been doing like a lot of co-op terms. But when I used to study, I think I usually study like just at night, like
Mm,
because I'm not a morning person, like so I don't usually wake up early. Usually I'm not as productive before 12 p.m. So like maybe in the afternoon is where I'm most productive. I also find it easier sometimes to it's just my personal take, but for me personally, sometimes I don't see going to lectures very helpful unless the
mm,
professor is really great. If I feel like going to class is not as helpful, I might spend the time going to class just reviewing the textbook or the lecture note on myself. So that's my personal like routine.
I actually feel the same way. Yeah. Like,
I definitely follow the exponential curve mentality of as it gets closer to a deadline, ramp it up. Sorry, you were saying?
no, I was just gonna say, I think like a lot of the times professors don't do like the best job teaching the material like in the
Mhm.
lecture. A lot of the time I'll just end up finding like a professor on YouTube from SFU that'll do it. Like I know for math, Jamie Mulholland,
Yes,
man,
legend.
his YouTube lectures are just that guy might be one of the greatest professors at SFU. He's super
hmm
great. Yeah.
hmm Yeah, I think you're right. I think some teachers just like they're either just reading off the lecture slides or it feels like an environment that you're not able to ask questions in without
Yeah.
being criticized or it's just too big. And I feel like, yeah, often unless you're able to get work done and like really focus in the class, sometimes it's better to just study in your own
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
I think with that we can wrap it up. Um Today's conversation showed that competitive programming builds your foundation, but real growth comes from adding collaboration, design, and delivery. Use communities like the SFU Programming Club or SFU Blueprint as your multiplier, not your guider. Thanks again to Andy and Colin for joining us today. You can connect with them on LinkedIn if you want to look them up. Andy Zhang and Colin Roth. And don't forget to follow the podcast for more stories like this. And yeah, I'll stop the recording now.